I'm a firm believer in putting guys in positions to be successful and asking guys to be who they are. First of all, let's stop the slander. Paul George is a great player. All right. I know NBA Twitter likes to have jokes. He's a great player. At his peak and at his healthiest, he's one of the top two-way players in the game. We're just a few years removed, Freddie, from Paul George being an MVP caliber player. Remember that OKC season? He was an MVP candidate. And even in OKC, I covered him there, and I remember him saying, I don't like plays called for me. I prefer to find my points, my production, my offense within the flow of the overall team offense. So now to suddenly say, all right, be the man, I don't know that that's in his DNA, or if that's putting him in the best position to be successful.
Ros, I'm glad you mentioned that, because at first I was like, hold on, where is she going? Because that's it, though. You nailed it. Because as much as he did at one point, and he seems to have the physical capabilities to do it, this is very much a what have you done for me lately league. And I don't want to call those elite years in which he landed the shoe deal with Nike and was up there competing with LeBron, I don't want to call those a flash in the pan, because I don't believe that was that. However, track record since then has not necessarily lived up to that promise. And so, this is what I said to Freddie in our first hour. While Paul George does need to be the head of the snake, to me, if this task is going to be completed by this Clippers squad minus Kawhi Leonard, it is going to be just as imperative that the role players play the best role they possibly can in terms of Reggie Jackson, Pat Beverly, Marcus Morris, Zubac. The whole gang is going to have to be locked in. And yes, it should be Paul George that should lead the charge. But I'm also not concerned with just the basketball part of this. I'm concerned with the personality element of this and the attitude that's going to be required, like you mentioned in the top of your comments, Ros.
Yeah. Well, Kawhi and PG, the first duo in Clippers history to each score 30 points in back-to-back playoff games, but Paul George obviously will have to step it up even more in his absence. Okay, let's move on now to some more breaking news. As first reported by The Athletic, Chris Paul has been sidelined indefinitely due to league COVID-19 health and safety protocols. His timeline for coming back, not known at this point. So, Ros, what is your reaction to this news now?
My reaction is, what has Chris Paul done to the basketball gods to deserve all of this?
Yeah, exactly, right? Nothing.
Yes.
Amen, sister.
Chris Paul might have to burn some sage, y'all. Like, I don't know, but I mean, this is super deflating. And, you know, the first reaction, knee-jerk reaction for a lot of people is going to be, well, the Suns lose a lot of leadership. But specifically, what kind of leadership they miss the most will be in the understanding of the moment and urgency of the moment within a playoff setting and shot creation. I've been so impressed with these young Suns here. Besides Chris Paul, for the most part, everyone on this team is not only in their first playoffs, they're in their first season as being depended on as consistent contributors within the rotation. A lot of time for teams to have success in the playoffs, they've either got to have experience, been pained, learned from mistakes of the past. But this Suns team has not played with any food. They've seized all moments. And it's Chris Paul who has led them to that. Against the Nuggets, full sweep. They won every single third quarter against the Nuggets. And who was it? Chris Paul there asserting himself. Anytime the Nuggets try to make a response, Chris Paul came up with an assist or his own shot. And go back to the Lakers, game 6, closeout game. Chris Paul put that series to bed in the fourth quarter. Understanding the urgency and how to close quarters and games, they'll miss that from Chris Paul. And then shot creation. I've been marveling at that. I love Mikal Bridges. Boy, he's been the defense and threes. He's been able to hit shots, spot up. Who's setting that shot up? Chris Paul penetrating the paint and kicking out. DeAndre Ayton, how nice for this #1 draft pick to finally be a consistent rim runner and finish on lobs. Who's setting the lob up? Chris Paul. So now you're without Chris Paul. These young guys spent the whole season learning the timing and spacing of where their shots are being created from by Chris Paul. And now you're going to ask 22, 24-year-olds in their first playoffs how to manufacture their own offense. That's very tough.
It is very tough, and I just had a hand of agreement every time you mention, who was it? Chris Paul. Say the name, Chris Paul. Now, this is what I will say. As the shock of this has worn off a little bit, y'all, and you're right, Ros, but I am wondering if in the arc of the growth of this team, right, there is an ability to steal one, right, to steal one. Listen, I am not crazy. Cameron Payne is not Chris Paul. But Cameron Payne has made tremendous strides. And when you look at the arc of his career, a guy that was bounced out of the league, had to go overseas, had to fight for it, had to come back, right? I do wonder if there is something that they have been able to glean from Chris Paul, and obviously Monty Williams has been tremendous, that they could stir it up just right to get you one. In the length of a series, this is absolutely problematic. But just in terms of having been able to learn alongside Chris Paul all season long, and of course I'm sure he's going to be as involved as he can be despite the physical restrictions due to the protocol, I do wonder if that is the next step in the growth of these guys, right? Like Devin Booker, we've known about your ability to score for a long time. Can you morph for a game into not just the scorer, but also someone who can help set the table so that this team can get it done? Tall task. I'm not taking anything away from Chris Paul's importance to this squad. It's an absolutely tall task. But I think sometimes when we hit that adversity, that's when we find just how much we've grown through the course of a season.
I go back to the words of Monty Williams after they closed out the Denver Nuggets about Chris Paul. He said, at the lowest point in my life, Chris Paul was there.
Yeah.
At the highest point in my life, Chris Paul is there. If anybody can have perspective on something like this and share that with a young basketball team, it's Monty Williams, who became a widow with 5 children when his wife tragically passed away in a car crash. So if anybody can shed some light saying, guys, I know we're not going to have Chris Paul for an indefinite amount of time, but there are a lot of worse things that people are going through. And his health is more important than anything else. When he comes back, we're going to be ready. But, guys, he would not want guys sitting around thinking, woe is us, what are we going to do? He would strangle us if he comes back here. And guys are sitting there looking at their lockers, just like Henry Winkler, the water boy, going, does anybody have an idea? Anybody? No, Chris Paul would not want that for this basketball team. And the perfect guy to get them through this is a guy like Monty Williams, who went through adversity to the 25th power, losing a soulmate for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
All right, well, again, we wish him a very speedy recovery. And we have some more breaking news, you guys. According to Woj and Andrew Lopez, Stan Van Gundy, after one season, is out as the head coach in New Orleans. So we'll be getting more information on that.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.